People who got or helped to get someone in prison. What's your story? Talked to my dad on the phone for the first time in 6 years to lure him to the spot where the arrest took place. I was 17 years old at the time, pulled out of school with zero notice I would be doing this. Sex crimes from 15 years ago and a year-long trial. Bastard was sentenced to 11 years. Would do it again in a heartbeat. Damn that guy. Wow. How'd other members of your family react to this? Everyone was in favor. They needed me to pull through for them. He abused all of us physically, emotionally, and we had just recently found out about the sexual abuse. So yeah, they were proud of me if anything. I don't have any guilt over it. Mom took me with her to the police station to report my dad. They took me to a private room and switched out investigators and tried different tactics before I finally gave in and spoke to someone. Dad was in prison for 15-ish years. My mom also did 11 years for her role in the abuse, which she obviously wasn't expecting. My brother was back on heroin after getting out of a 6-month rehab. My mom said she would meet him to give him cash to help him out after he was kicked out of the house. She called the cops instead and got him locked up for 2 years to save his life. He's clean now, 20 years, and all of his friends overdosed and died. Out of curiosity, do you know if your brother is grateful for what your mom did, or does he hold a grudge? He's still a mama's boy at heart. He didn't have anything going for him, and she did put that money on his books if that counted for anything. But they are super close still. I think he understood. While working security in the Southwest, I found a man knotted out in his car with a candle going under the dash that was starting to char the dash above it. I would have either woke him or tried to put the candle out, but guy had a syringe in one hand and a kitchen knife in the other. I called the police and they came to deal with him. Turns out, guy was in parole for a violent offense, and there was a loaded AR-15 under the jacket in the passenger seat. An older friend told me this story. On a camping trip, he discovered that his brother had been molesting his own children for years. On the ride back, he thought of nothing other than killing his brother. He thought of his own family, his wife and his 5 kids without a provider. He lost a night of sleep over it, and then decided to kill him, but realized that doing so would punish his own kids. He called his brother's wife, and she told him that it was okay. He only did it when he was drunk. She was afraid for the kids if he left. He drove to the police station and informed on his brother. They arrested him and the kids told the police everything. His brother got 17 years in prison and my friend took care of his family the entire time. When he got out, his kids were grown except for one. My friend adopted her at 15 so she could finish high school. 2 weeks after he got out of prison, he got into a car accident and broke his leg. They discovered he had bone cancer and was dead in less than a month. For 17 years, my friend took care of 2 families and never looked back. He told me this story last year, and after he smiled and said, "It would have been easier to just fucking kill him." When I was a kid, Mom had an abusive boyfriend that she kept going back to. One night he threatened our lives via text, so we braced all the doors and windows in the house. Didn't expect him to climb up the side of the house and break into a second-floor window. While he's going through, trashing the house and beating the shit out of Mom, my sister and I were hidden in my room on the phone with police. When they showed up, knocked on the door, he goes, "Who the fuck is that?" I flew out of my room, unlocked the door and threw it open. "It's the fucking cops." I've never seen a man's face lose color so fast. Mom didn't press charges and abandoned us for 2 weeks a month later to leave state with him. Wow, your mom sounds like a winner. Dark times. We reconciled years ago and have a good and healthy relationship. A friend of mine got robbed while we were both hanging out together. We were early teens and got cornered by a group of 6 or 7 of much older, bigger teens. One said to me, "Give me some money." I just bluffed it, saying I didn't have any. He went to my friend and said the same, and my friend started emptying pockets. The one lad in question grabbed his wallet and pushed us both over, then ran. The guy's friends were in shock and stayed with us. We called the police and reported it. Had to give a statement on my experience and pick a lad out of a lineup. The guy in question, it turns out, lived in a troubled boys' home and admitted it as soon as he got back. He was sentenced without us knowing what the deal was. I ended up getting a check for £12 for distress from the court. Hello, Child Protective Services. I need to report a case of child abuse. I've made this call far too many times. I used to be a domestic violence advocate and helped get many people in prison by supporting survivors and encouraging them to participate in legal proceedings, even standing next to them in court, sitting away from their abuser so I'm in their line of sight, accompanying them to depositions, and whatever else they needed to keep moving forward. I could only handle it for 3 years before I felt burnt out, but it was the most rewarding years of my life. An old dealer of mine had a girl overdose and die in his room. Well, actually, multiple people died from his drugs, but this is the one that caught the FBI's attention. He never called 911 right away, always called his friends for help for some reason. By the time he called, she'd been dead for hours. They saw some texts between me and him and came to question me. He's currently serving 22 years. Just did my jury duty and found someone guilty on their 3rd violent felony. Later heard 3rd time violent felony is a mandatory life sentence. Dude was on parole when he beat an 85-year-old man so bad he spent 3 weeks in coma at the ICU. Jury took all of 1 minute to come to a unanimous decision. Of course we did give anyone time to protest or counter-argue. No one did. Guilty. Not sure if he's in prison yet. Probably just in jail. But while I was working security at a retail store, there was a gentleman indecently exposing himself, who refused to leave when asked. When he refused to leave the property, I called the police. Turns out the guy had multiple warrants out for his arrest. When the police came to pick him up, got asked to investigate a manager's work computer. Silly fool had Tor browser on his desktop. He had a lot of evidence of doing very bad things, like selling employees' IDs on the dark web. Using Tor isn't necessarily illegal. The privacy nuts out there use it for its advertised purpose. If it were only Tor, there really wouldn't be much in the way of evidence. So he must have had incriminating files just chillin' on his computer. It's a very short post. It's very easy to read the whole thing. I sent my molester to jail. It involved a sting operation with a wiretapped phone where I had to elicit his confession. That was the scariest part until having to face him in court. I was 13 when the assaults began. He was 36. It lasted 4 years. While my identity was not disclosed during the trial as I was a minor, our mutual friends knew it was my fault. He was getting put away. I was victim blamed and then shunned. I wrestled for years with the guilt of having ruined his life, without considering the full impact he had on mine. He served a sentence of only 6 months. My detectives called me the day he was released. I became incredibly paranoid thinking he would retaliate against me, so I began carrying a box cutter everywhere I went. Thankfully, nowadays the memories of those horrible nights we spent together only come up about once a year and make me melancholy for a few days. But I did want to say, for anyone hopping on this thread thinking that having someone who harmed you arrested would be a sigh of relief, it didn't feel like that at all. I had nightmares and delusions for years and still occasionally run my fingers over the scars. How do a 13-year-old abuse victim and a 36-year-old molester have mutual friends? It's either other victims or other molesters. We worked together and shared many friends. He got me the job so he could groom me. When he was arrested, I became a pariah. The others in our circle even showed up in court to support him, really driving home that I was some slut bent on ruining a good man. They knew all along he was molesting me but shrugged it off, all adults. They themselves were not molesters, but their actions were nearly as evil. The fucker stabbed me. In front of 2 cops. In front of a police station. What a fucking idiot. To know what happened to him. Heard he's free now. Bet he's gonna stab me again. What a fucking idiot. Context. He claims I stole his girl. The girl in question is my sister. What a fucking idiot. Hopefully I can wrap this enormous story into a short paragraph. My gang member best friend died on New York 4 years ago, Chris. He had a small get-together for New Year's and was sold a bag of fentanyl which he believed was actually ecstasy. He died after choking on his vomit in his sleep. That would have happened at around 4 a.m. The rest of the party who remained had no idea he was dead, but all of us became sick and threw up thinking we had a tummy bug, 5 of us. One girl did end up in hospital but she was fine. So fast forward a little bit and people who were at his party start getting murdered. Same town, all various different gruesome deaths. Police had our phones tapped and were building a case. Turns out Chris's gang member associates had a list of names and wanted to eliminate every person on that list for suspicion of foul play. Who sold him the drugs? Everyone will pay type thing. I was on that list and a detective told me I almost died about 6 times after reading our phone info. Anyway, plot twist, the guy killing everyone had this nasty bitch of a sidekick, and that sidekick was the one who sold my mate the drugs, and indeed it was foul play, and indeed I was the first out of around 40 people on live television to stand on the dock and say, "Yes, I saw her sell him those drugs," and look those evil bastards in the eyes, which gave me chills. They got life or close to it. A guy tried to mug me and my then best friend when we were 14. He didn't succeed, but someone called the police. Next day in school, the head teacher and someone else asked us to identify him from a picture in the school system. Turned out they were looking for the same kid cause he sexually assaulted a teacher on a residential trip. He was never sent down for the attempted mugging. I was supposed to go to line up to pick him out at the police station, but my dad wouldn't let me do it, and they never questioned me. I'm guessing because I'm autistic they didn't want to stress me out. I think my friend spoke to them though. He went down for the assault, though I don't know how long for. Remember those To Catch a Predator shows? Not for TV. But I was a decoy chatting with a school teacher who thought he was chatting with a 12-year-old girl. He admitted to sexually abusing a student and pled guilty. Died not long after getting out on parole. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.